Playing the soundtrack to your morning. This is Med in the Morning.
It's a live 107.3. Lee here with you, counting down to the latest premium live event from TNA Wrestling. Sacrifice comes your way this Friday, March 8th, exclusively on TNA. Plus, I'm going to be honest, it's going to be off the charts. Nick Nemeth facing off against Steve Macklin. The Juggernaut, Jordan Grace, defends the Knockouts title in a triple threat as she takes on Tasha Steelz and Zia Brookside. The walking weapon, Josh Alexander, taking on the newest signing to TNA Wrestling, Alexander Hamilton. The world title's on the line as the leader of the system, the TNA champion Moose, defends his title against Eric Young. My guest here on Live 107.3. I'm sure he's going to have a review on all these matches and so much more. Let's say a massive hello to the rock and roll rebel. No, sorry, the king of TNA, Frankie Kazarian. Frankie, how are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. How you doing? How you doing this morning?
I'm good, mate. I'm psyched. I'm super psyched. I've been a massive fan of TNA wrestling since it was around back in the days over 20 years ago, and you have been an integral part of this franchise, of this promotion since that day. There's so much we need to talk about. But first off, I need to address a situation coming into this weekend Sacrifice event. I ran through the card there. It's a stacked card. It's an exciting card, but well, you're not on it. And it's, in my opinion, it's all down to this abuse of power by the director of authority, Santino Marella, suspending you from TNA Wrestling. We saw that this past week on Impact. I need to get your thoughts on, firstly, the suspension, which in my opinion, completely unwarranted. And second, the fact that the DOA didn't have the, as he would say, the cojones to address this situation himself, sending out Gia Miller to actually do his dirty work.
Yeah. Well, you're a smart man using that word abuse of power, because that's exactly what it is. So, I'll let everyone else form their own opinion on that. I know I have my own opinions, but essentially what Santino did was give me a paid vacation. So, I will have no problem sitting at my home in beautiful Southern California. I'll certainly be watching this Friday, and it's going to be a great show. But it's questionable decision at best. But we're gonna have to see how things shake out.
And again, what do you make of the fact that Santino didn't even have the decency to address the situation himself, sending out, and don't get me wrong, an amazing talent in backstage interviewing Gia Miller, but really, what kind of man, Frankie? What kind of man puts a woman in that sort of situation? We saw the amount of security that she felt she needed to approach a gentleman like yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to use the word coward or fool or clown or anything like that. Again, I'll let people make their own decisions about that. But any man that sends a woman like Gia to do his dirty work, that's not a very it's weak. Let's go with that, weak. Gia was put in a very difficult position, and I wasn't the happiest getting that news, but I dealt with it and I sent my message back. So we'll have to see how he responds to that.
I definitely think there needs to be some ramifications from the higher powers at TNA management about this, because it is nothing but, in my opinion, abusive power. And we've seen Santino Marella actually do this on more than one occasion to members of the TNA roster, whether it be tag teams, whether it be members of the Knockouts division. It seems to be a case of if the face fits Frankie, is that the way that it feels in the locker room?
I don't know. This is honestly my first suspension, so that remains to be seen. There is certainly a pattern with the way Santino goes about handling his business. I also am, a guy who's very tight with management and with the higher ups in Anthem. So, I can certainly make my voice heard. I prefer to settle this like gentlemen, but if need be, I can certainly go to the office and make sure things are, make sure that wrongs are written. Let's just say that.
Okay, let's move on from this, because there has been so much going on in TNA wrestling since you returned to the company just over a year ago now. You came back full time, and I'm going to admit, Frankie, I was as giddy as a kid at Christmas when you came out at BFG, and you were there. You announced you're coming back to make a difference, because there was that one thing you haven't had in TNA wrestling, that is that world title. I mean, we're doing this on Zoom just now, and if we look behind you, we can see gold adorning that wall. We've got, X Division Championship, we've got Tag Team Championships, we've got things from Ring of Honor there as well. You've been a champion everywhere you have been. But that big one, that TNA wrestling title, has eluded you thus far. When you look at how TNA has been growing since your return, what do you feel you can do to usher in the era of Frankie Kazarian? Because Moose has got a tight grip on that title just now. I think some of the originals, yourself included, have somewhat been overlooked.
Yeah, I mean that's I've been put in that category a lot, underrated, overlooked, and I kind of you know, I hear that, and I've always kind of had a chip on my shoulder when it comes to those type of things. But in terms of you hit the nail on the head. That's the one thing that has eluded me, is the world championship, and that's certainly a huge contributing factor of why I did in fact come back to TNA wrestling. I what I bring with me is 25 years, almost 26 of experience, and a guy that was one of the TNA originals. And I like to think I have, one foot in the old school, one in the new, and I would be the perfect guy to represent this company in the new era of TNA, the rebranding of TNA, especially since I was the guy who was here in the original TNA. I was a guy who I've been through every regime change you could imagine. And I've been through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows with this company, and have worked very hard to get to the top of the card. And I intend to stay there, and I intend to one day wear that TNA World title and represent this company as its champion.
I believe you will do, Frank. I believe you've got everything that a champion should actually have. You've got the athleticism, you've got the experience, and you've got the ability. And I think, in my opinion, many of the up and coming, many of the new breed, should we call them, to coin an old wrestling phrase, they have individual elements of what it takes to make the ultimate TNA superstar, whereas you have all, including an amazing ability to talk people into the arena. You've got an amazing set of mic skills. How does that come together to actually, when you go out to the crowd, how do you read a crowd?
I mean, and that's just it. Every crowd is different, like you have to be willing to adapt. You have to really have a strong sense of improvisation. I mean, I've been in situations where I was, on shows, and uh, going out there assuming I was going to be a guy that was going to be getting booed, and it wasn't the case. So you have to be able to think on the fly and be able to react like that, and read the crowd, like you said. You can't go up there with any preconceived notions, because every crowd is different, every event is different. It's just another one of those things, another one of those tools that you get after doing this for so long. You learn. You've been put in situations where you've not known how to react, and you maybe failed, but that's how you learn. You don't really learn a lot from winning. You learn from losing. You learn from failing. If you're smart, you do. You get back up, you brush yourself off, and you learn. So it's just another one of those tricks that any veteran of any industry will tell you, that you have to you have to acquire that knowledge in order to grow, in order to get better. And I'm a work in progress. I'm still growing to this day, and will never probably achieve what I feel I can achieve. That's just because I always set the bar very high for myself.
You set the bar high for yourself. You also set the bar very high for the opponents that you step into the ring with. You have had phenomenal matches over your career in TNA wrestling. So many standout moments, so many mark out moments, all of which you can go back and you can catch again on TNA Plus just now. If people are coming to TNA wrestling with new eyes just now, as I say, all eyes on the promotion since the rebrand at the start of the year, many people are using this as as a launch pad to actually get into TNA for the first time. If you could only choose one match from your career in TNA wrestling and say to people, go back and watch this one, it defines what Frankie Kazarian is as an in-ring performer, which one would it be?
That's very difficult. I will give you one, but there's so many to choose from. I mean, I had some very standout matches with Speedball Mike Bailey and with Josh Alexander at the end of 2022 that I'm very proud of. And then you can go back to, matches I had with Christian Cage back in 2007, and matches I had with Chris Daniels against Kurt Angle and AJ Styles back in 2012. I mean, any one of those. But like, if you want to see what Frankie Kazarian is all about, I would advise you to watch the Killer Impact match that I had last fall with Eddie Edwards. It was kind of the culmination of a pretty intense, very personal feud, one that I'm very, very proud of. I cannot say enough good things about Eddie Edwards. He is a pro's pro, a standout guy, a veteran, a locker room leader, a great human being, and a warrior, and it was very special for us both because we came from the same place, man. We both cut our teeth in Killer Kowalski's Pro Wrestling Institute at different times. I was there a little bit before him, but so we're wired very similarly. We think the same about a lot of things in and out of the ring. And that match, I think we told an incredible story. It was violent. It was full of drama, suspense, and it's pretty recent. So if you want to know what Frankie Kazarian is all about, the heart and soul of Frankie Kazarian, I kind of wear my heart and my soul on my sleeve in that match. So check that one out, please.
It is absolutely fantastic. You mentioned, obviously, that was tail end of last year, yourself and Eddie Edwards, but also, I was going to come to this later, but we brought it up just now. Obviously, the females involved in that match as well. Obviously, your wife, the OG, the original Knockout, the amazing Tracy Brooks, Alicia Edwards getting involved in what was a phenomenal match at Impact 1000, which just being involved in that must have been even more emotional for you from being there from all since day one, and many people saying back in the day, TNA wrestling, Impact Wrestling wouldn't have lasted 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, let alone 1,000 episodes over 20 years. What was it like to be part of a truly history-making night with your wife?
It was very special, man. Like that was when I came back to TNA, I didn't even realize that was on the docket. And then all of a sudden, as we're getting closer, it's like, wow, show 1000 is coming up. And the idea was pitched to have that mixed tag match happen. Tracy and myself against Alicia and Eddie Edwards. And, I was again, honored to be part of that show. I was on the very first ever episode of Impact, and I was on the 1000th. And I think there's only 4 of us, 5 of us, maybe, that can say that. And it was a great match, a great moment. I got to announce that my wife Tracy was going into the Hall of Fame with our son right there. You couldn't have written a better moment. Very cool. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. So that night just got even more special as it progressed. And seeing some faces from the past. It was a wonderful moment. One of those moments that I really, the whole day I tried to really take it in. It's not lost on me. As I get older, I really cherish these moments and these people that are involved in these moments.
So many amazing people involved in Impact 1000. So many people that have been amazed, that have been part of the Frankie Kazarian story over the almost 2-decade-long existence of TNA wrestling. We are going to continue this conversation after this. Don't go anywhere.
Thursday on an all-new TNA Impact, the new X Division champion Mustafa Ali has his first match since winning the gold as he takes on Kevin Knight.
Actions have consequences.
The walking weapon Josh Alexander looks to keep his winning streak alive as he battles Dirty Dango. Masha Slamovich goes one-on-one with Danny Luna, and Ash by Elegance will be in action. It's an all-new episode of TNA Impact, Thursday at 8/7 Central on Axis TV.
Lee with you here on Alive 107.3. That was Kiss and Crazy Nights. We are looking forward to TNA Impact. It lands, it says checking his watch, the new episode of TNA Impact in just a couple of hours here in the UK on TNA Plus, on YouTube for Ultimate Insiders, and on DAZN. While, of course, in the US, you can catch it exclusively on Access TV. I'm delighted to be joined by the king of TNA Wrestling. I love saying that. Frankie Kazarian. You still with me, Frankie?
Yeah, I got you. I love hearing it.
It's superb. And this is the thing, being the king carries with it a lot of responsibility. But you carry yourself so well, both in and out of the ring. There's no slouching. You're there front and center. You're up, and all you're doing is trying to lead the locker room in the way that it should be done.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of anointed myself that, but a long time ago, and along the way, I was, I started as a peasant, and I've worked very hard to make sure I will never be that peasant again, especially in this company. And in terms of experience and in terms of tenure and what I bring to the table, I certainly believe that I am the king, and I'm going to continue to proclaim myself that, whether people like it or not. They're going to have to get used to it, because I'm going to continue to say it.
It is absolutely delighted to catch up with you, Frank. We mentioned, and you said it before, you've had such an amazing legacy, such an amazing time in TNA wrestling. I've been dipping into the TNA Plus archives, looking back at some of my favorite Frankie Kazarian moments, and I'd just like to see if you can share with me any of your thoughts on some of these.
Sure.
If we go back, I mentioned before, Moose, he's part of the system, one of the hottest stables in wrestling just now. But one of my favorite stables of all time is Fortune. And you were lucky enough to be part of that group at a time when TNA really was at the top of its game, and all eyes were on it. I mean, this was a truly amazing group put together by the legendary multiple times, 16, 17, 18, who was how many times world champion? Let's be honest, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. How did it feel when Rick came and said, "Look, we're putting together the stable. We want you to be part of it," and especially the fact he likened you to, I think back in the day, that stable's Barry Windham from the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, that was. I mean, for me as a performer at that point, I was honored. I was thrilled. Saying, "Look, you're the guy that needs to be, kind of the X Division representative of this group." In the vein of the Four Horsemen, where they kind of, in those days, they had the tag team guy, the US title or the TV title guy, and then the main event heavyweight champion guy. I was thrilled. It was a huge, we use the term getting the rub in this business, and just by being on screen with Ric Flair and doing promos with him and being in the ring with him, you're getting that rub. And that was very, very beneficial to me at that point in my career. And, honestly, I think we could have done a lot more with that stable. It was, I get asked about that all the time. People, guys in our locker room that were fans are, constantly asking me about Fortune and stuff. And yeah, that was certainly, I look back on that time with a lot of fond memories, and AJ's one of my best friends, and Bobby Roode is as well. It was just a great time. And Fortune will always have a special place in my heart, man. That was a huge boost for my career.
You mentioned just there that some of the guys in the locker room come up and they mention the Fortune days. They mention those classic days of early TNA. Is it strange that guys are now coming into the business and they're actually having conversations with you, Frankie, saying, "I watched you growing up." I don't mean that disrespectful, but I mean, you said yourself, almost 26 years you've been in business. That's longer than some of these guys that are coming through have been alive. I mean, over here on the UK tour that we had this past October, we saw Leon Slater, an amazing performer that's now been signed to Impact Wrestling, to TNA Wrestling. But I mean, he wasn't even born when TNA started. So I mean, how does that feel?
I'm starting to get used to it. You know, it's like, especially with wrestlers that grew up watching the product, and guys grew up, you know, a lot of guys, some in our locker room and guys all around the world that, you know, grew up as wrestling fans, yes, but TNA fans. They really followed what TNA product was doing. And it's flattering and it's strange. And it's, you know, yeah, I'm meeting guys that are, you know, grown men with beards and 5, 6 year old children. And they say that they grew up watching me. And I'm like, well, I guess if you're in your mid 20s, you probably did, which it's kind of mind blowing to me because I still feel like I'm a 22-year-old kid. So it's, you know, time it's really a trip. But yeah, and then you know you mentioned Leon Slater. I had the opportunity to wrestle him in his first TNA match, and I wrestled him twice actually. And man, what an incredible talent that kid! He is going to light the world on fire when he gets to be seen on a national stage. And uh, you know, he's light years ahead of where I was at that age in terms of, you know, his intelligence and how his views on pro wrestling. He really gets it. And uh, the fans are in for a treat when they see that kid. He's special. He's a special talent.
I mean, what I mentioned Leon Slater there, obviously, just one of the UK talents that's recently signed to TNA Wrestling. Obviously, Zia Brookside in there as well. We've got the grizzled young veterans. What do you think it is just now that is bringing all these UK stars to the spotlight?
Well, I think, you know, we've always had a pretty good footprint in the UK. I know TNA is and, you know, was wildly popular over there. I know back when the peak of TNA in the mid 2000s, 2010s, you know, we'd go over there and like the audiences, we, you know, be selling buildings out. They would be, again, it's a rabid fan base. And a lot of people grew up watching TNA over in Europe and the UK. And, you know, everybody that we've brought in, you know, you can even go back to another guy who I have tremendous respect for, is one of the best to ever do it, and a good friend of mine, Doug Williams. You know, like he was kind of the real like first. He was really the first ambassador of British wrestling of my generation. You know, and I cannot say enough nice things about him, as well as, you know, Nigel McGuinness and, you know, Nick Aldis. You know, I'm so another good friend of mine. I'm so proud of his career and what he did, because I got to see him come in as a young kid and see him ascend to be a world champion, and now the GM of SmackDown. It's really just you know, I love it when good things happen to good deserving people. You know, all those guys, you know, got their start in the UK and then eventually in TNA, and you know, I see the same thing happening for the Zia Brooksides and the Leon Slaters and the Joe Hendrys and all those people. And again, you know, they're a welcome addition into my locker room.
You mentioned Nick Aldis there, of course. Magnus, as he was
Yeah.
originally back in the
Brutus
TNA,
Magnus. Brutus Magnus.
the modern day gladiator. I think it was the original vignette. It's funny you mention him because he featured in the next moment I was going to ask you about. Obviously, and not only an amazing X Division performer, amazing singles performer, Frank. We've had a superb tag team career, including, I think, one of the most entertaining tag teams ever in Bad Influence. And I remember clearly, I've been to all the UK tours, all the Maximum Impact tours. Absolutely love them. And you came to Glasgow yourself and Christopher Daniels, and I remember you had the face paint on, you had the kilts, you were really laying into the crowd, quite the thing. And Magnus came out, and very strangely, Magnus came out to defend the honour of Scotland, and it was an amazing, amazing match. But again, how did that pitch about? Was that just one of these things you thought we've got to get some cheap heat, or is it something you guys came up with yourself? How did that come about? Because it's one of these moments that always stands out in my mind. And when I'm ever having one of those days and I need to feel good, I instantly go back and watch that on TNA Plus.
All those ideas were 100% myself and Christopher Daniels. Nothing was ever written for us. Nothing was ever pitched to us. It was always us driving in the car or on the flight over going, hey, what if this? You know, that was kind of that started. We were doing the Throwback Thursdays. We came out in the Zubaz. Then we dressed up as the Legion of Boom. We dressed up as the Road Warriors. We dressed up as Siegfried and Roy. You know, we and it just kind of became a thing. And literally, we had a day off in Scotland, and we're like, we have to do something for the TV that we're filming over here. And hey, look at, we found kilts, we found wigs, we got some paint, we did the Braveheart thing. And then it was always we were heels at the time, but we were despicable, sickening bad guys, but people also kind of, found us entertaining and enjoyed our shtick. So, we always wanted to over deliver. But yeah, that was always either Chris pitching something to me pitching something to him, us come up with something together. I pride myself on that. That whole Bad Influence run was, we were really given the creativity and really, for the first time in our career, the reins were taken off, and we hit home run after home run after home run. And again, Bad Influence, Chris Daniels is still my best friend to this day. And that tag team and that era also, has that same special place in my heart.
It was fantastic. You were the cool bad guys. You were highlight of the night. It was absolutely superb. And I remember that match because it was the opening match of the TV taping, and you instantly just set the tone for what was coming through the remainder of the taping. It was absolutely superb. But we're going to post links to that where you can actually watch it on TNA Plus. Just look in the box below. We're going to do that. Frankie, I know time is almost against us. I could talk to you literally for the next hour and a half quite easily. And one time, when you're over here on the next TNA tour, we need to make sure we can get a pint together, because I think that would be so cool.
Always, I'll never turn down a pint, man. Always, my drink of choice changes over there. Over in the UK is the one, you can't get Guinness on tap extra cold with black currant, and you can get that over there. In the States, it's hard to find, so I'm all about it.
We will get that sorted. But before we let you go, Frankie, there's one thing we need to do. And I try to do this with all the superstars of TNA when we get the chance. I would like to play with you, if you could, a round of the name game. I've got 5 names in front of me. I'm going to say them, and I'd like to say the first thing that jumps into your head. Are you up for this?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Okay, name number 1, the Wanted Man, Nick Nemeth.
Incredible, underrated. Has had an amazing career, and a guy that I very much look forward to getting in the ring with.
That's going to be a classic right away. Look forward to seeing that myself. Number 2, from the Knockouts division, Ash by Elegance.
Again, a welcome surprise. Somebody that kind of got here by different means, very kind of showed up unexpectedly, but I'm eagerly really looking forward to see what she does.
Name number 3, Joe Hendry.
I guess I believe in Joe Hendry, but I'll say this, Joe Hendry, I don't ever want to be on the receiving end of one of his videos, because he rips people apart, man. So I'm hoping to avoid that. But I've gotten to know Joe quite well over the last year or so, and he's a very, very genuine human being, and a lot of respect for that guy.
Fantastic. Name number 4, multi-time Knockouts champion, Rosemary.
She's again, she's one of those veterans of the knockout locker room that is quietly, really compiled a hell of a career, and has a great tenure in the company, and is still doing it at a high level. I'd love to see that. I love longevity. I'm a big fan of that.
And finally, name number 5, the voice of Impact Wrestling, Mr. Smooth, Tom Hannifan.
Tom and Matt, I tell these guys all the time, I always say thank you for what you guys do. You write, you give our music lyrics every week. And I think those two guys feed Matt and Tom both feed off each other really well. Great dudes, students of the game. They take their job seriously, and we're very blessed to have them telling our stories to the millions of people.
It's absolutely fantastic. They do an amazing job. You can hear the stories that are being told and witness the action that takes place in the squared circle each and every week on TNA. Impact is the flagship show of TNA Wrestling. It's available on TNA Plus. It's available on DAZN 1 here in the UK. Of course, you can also get it on YouTube for Ultimate Insiders. And in the US, you can catch it Thursday nights on Access TV. And you need to make sure you watch this week's episode, because we are heading in to TNA Sacrifice. The premium live event comes your way from St. Clair College in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, this Friday exclusively on TNA Plus. If you want to subscribe, head on to TNAWrestling.com and you can show the world you're a TNA fan by heading online to TNAmerch.com, where hopefully we will get some rocking new Frankie Kazarian, king of TNA merch, pretty soon, I hope. Frankie, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend. We look forward to seeing you back over here in the UK very, very soon as the DOA lifts that suspension.
So let's hope that soon. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Had a good time.